Okay, item number 5 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness at 860 Broadway in the Ladies Mile Historic District, docket number 14-8061, block 846, lot 26, a late 19th century commercial-style store building designed by Detlef Lanau and built in 1883 to 84 and altered and refaced by F.H. Dewey and Company in 1925. This is an application to construct a rooftop addition and install storefront infill, and this was last presented on July 15th.
Good morning, Commissioners. Caroline Passion, Preservation Staff. This application was last presented at the public meeting of July 15th, following the public hearing and meeting of March 18th. The application consisted of replacing storefront infill at the ground floor and constructing a 2-story rooftop addition. At that July 15 public meeting, the Commissioners had concerns about the proposed mansard addition with proportions and details of the dormers and windows, and the architect, Sherda Paulson, is here to discuss those concerns with you.
All right, we'll reopen the hearing.
Where should I speak from? I never remember.
This is good.
This is good, the mic, okay. Welcome, new commissioners. So Sherda Paulson from PKSB Architects. We're here representing the owners of 860 Broadway for this proposed 2-story rooftop addition and modifications to the storefronts. At the last hearing, I think we addressed the storefront infill questions, so we are focusing on this. Just to quickly go through the beginning of the presentation and some of the reasons that we thought it was appropriate to propose a visible rooftop addition on this building was finding this historic postcard which showed a building that looked very different from the building that's on the site today. It's the one on the left in red brick with a deeply detailed facade. And this is 17th Street, just north of Union Square and Broadway. And location map, just showing where this is positioned, that it's an L-shaped building with facades on Broadway and 17th Street and a facade on 18th Street. One of the reasons that this site was so interesting was that it had been in one family's ownership, and all of the listings and descriptions of those buildings were included in the designation report, that the building was originally a mansion with a corner addition, became a club building, and got extended up on the upper left-hand photograph to a building with a mansard roof, and that it was very visible and well documented over time.
Sherda, do you want to move towards what was done
happy
before,
to.
and instead of the history of this? I think the Commission had already recognized that an addition over here would be appropriate. It was really focusing on the details. I think, again, the Commission was comfortable with a response which was in the form of a mansard roof, given that the adjacent buildings that truly are are really kind of the most beautiful buildings around Union Square have these mansard roofs. Also within the Flatiron Historic District, there have been additions that have been treated in terms of a mansard roof. So I think if yes, all right. So why do we focus on that?
Okay. So the design feedback at the last hearing, as was just stated, was to really focus on the design of the dormers, and a sidebar issue was to look at the north-facing facade and make it a little bit more fun, I think. As fun as you can do without running afoul of sign regulations. So going back to some of the reference photographs that we had presented at the time, which were of Parisian mansards, trying to go back to the real resources, and then this map indicating some of the other mansards around the district. So just to refer back, we did go back and confirm in response to Commissioner Devonshire's comment that the heights at the base and the mansard do match as the typical relationship is indicated. It turned out that the base as drawn was about 18 inches shorter than it was in reality, so in fact they do match. And we have modified the design, which I will get to. On the upper row are the previous scheme where the comments were that it looked more like a one-story addition with a roof. And we have broken up the dormers now to, instead of being massive groupings of windows, it's a pair of windows with a single window in between. We added back, as was suggested at the hearing, the more prominent corner dormer to celebrate the fact that there is that angled view. And we reinstated the Audi dormers on the 8th floor because they seem to break up the roof more appropriately. And on the side, we instituted lot line windows on the east-facing facade to make it look a bit more residential. And on the other side, it'll be more clear in the views. We've infilled brick up to the height of the existing bulkhead, and we've done metal panels with additional windows above, so it minimizes the impression. And just in plan, you can see the breakup of the different elements. No changes to the rooftop. Section, I will get to in a blow-up. And this is the up close. So what we've done is made the dormers more proportional and more important in the overall addition, much like the ones in Paris. Minimized those. We've added a more decorative railing at the top of those, and we've also introduced a band on those dormers that relates to the historic terracotta band below the cornice and lovely remnant of the foliage. And in section, the red dashed line refers to our original proposal and the section that we presented last time. This red line refers to that section overlaid on the new proposal, which cuts through the Audi dormer. But we also did something that we noticed had been done at the Barnes & Noble building in the mid-block here, and also was typical of the Parisian mansards, which was to bend the roof back, so that instead of having a straight slope, it goes up and then cants back, which reduced the skyline. And the views are now much lighter. I think it has more of a rhythmic breakup around the site. It remains visible, but visible against the context of other taller buildings in the area. And the north facade facing up Broadway. And these are the views from the west. So again, it's been minimized by pushing that roof line back so that you really do see the Barnes & Noble building. This is not the focal point, and that the new corner piece celebrates that angled corner without overwhelming the rest of the building. And that's it.
All right. Questions for the applicant? Any questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Paulson. We can close the hearing. I think that their recent design changes actually are much better than what we had before. I think they've incorporated a little more delicacy into the addition itself. I think if you look at some of the views which are on page V101, which shows what there was before versus what they have now, and if you look at that in the context of the adjacent building, which I believe the Barnes & Noble building, I think there's a lot of synergy between those two buildings. I know that Commissioner Goldblum, you had some concerns, or you had some ideas about the mansard, so I'm going to ask you what you think of it. Okay, I remember what every commissioner says. No, I'm joking. But I thought you had raised an issue, but if not, that's fine. Commissioners, thoughts about the design of this?
Let's go. It's arrived. Yeah. Lots of study, it's just right.
Okay, are there any concerns at all? Are we ready to vote? All right, very good. I've lost track of who. Adi, would you like to read the resolution, please? It's item number 5.
Sorry. In the matter of certificate of appropriateness for 860 Broadway, AKA 2729 East 17th Street and 3234 East 18th Street, Ladies Mile Historic District. The application is to construct a rooftop addition and replace the storefront infill. I recommend approval that the building was altered and reclad in 1925 with most of the neo-Grec style elements removed, and therefore the proposed addition is in keeping with the building's history of extensive alterations, that there is precedent for mansard additions in this historic district which appear on a variety of building styles and types, that the general configuration and proportions of the mansard addition and dormers will relate well to the historic precedents and to the existing buildings, that the materials of the proposed addition will relate harmoniously with the facade materials and will evoke the types of materials historically found on mansard additions, that the standing seam metal at the north wall is in keeping with materials often found on rooftop features and will help to distinguish from the existing sidewall, that the replacement of select storefront display windows and doors will not cause the removal of significant historic fabric, that the proposed double-leaf glass and metal paneled doors at Broadway and East 17th Street will match the historic doors in terms of configuration and will match the existing infill in terms of material details and finish, thereby bringing uniformity to the base of the building, that the historic wrought iron grills will be maintained and incorporated into the new storefront infill, and that the location of the double-leaf doors at West 17th Street will restore the historic storefront configuration at the ground floor with paired doors flanked by display windows, and therefore will return these storefronts closer to their original appearance.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This application's been approved.